Born January 9th in Batesville, Arkansas, he's been described by ESPN as the greatest driver to never win a championship. Today on the Thursday Throwback, we're going to talk about Mark Martin and why he's the People's Champ. So when you think about icons, you think about guys like Michael Jordan, Dale Earnhardt, Superman, and every single one of those people, if I tell you to think about them, you think about Superman, you think about that red and yellow S. You think about Michael Jordan, you think about that red 23 for the Chicago Bulls. You think about Dale Earnhardt, it is the black 3. And it is the same with Mark Martin. When you think of Mark Martin, you think of probably one of two paint schemes. Either one of those really cool Valvoline schemes, which is probably what most of us think about, or the old Folgers. And I guess if you're born at a certain period of time, you remember the old Pfizer Viagra number 6. But that is the first thing Mark Martin has going for him. He has that iconic number, that number 6, and he has those iconic paint schemes. So you instantly, when you say Mark Martin, you instantly flash to one of those things. And proof of that is the t-shirt I'm wearing. And if you go to any racetrack anywhere, you'll see Mark Martin gear, even to this day, even though the guy hasn't raced in 10 years. So the first reason that he is the People's Champ is, boom, he's iconic. You think of Mark Martin, you immediately think of a number and a paint scheme. But a really cool paint scheme and a really recognizable number alone does not make a People's Champion. So with 40 wins in his career, some of which came well into his 50s, I think we had like 49 Xfinity or Busch Series wins. He was the original bushwhacker, the original guy that went down there and got some wins. He was the ASA Rookie of the Year. The ASA used to be the biggest late model thing. It was actually the biggest thing next to the Busch Series at the time when they were coming up. Rusty Wallace and Ken Schrader and a bunch of guys have come through that system as well. So winning the Rookie of the Year and that was actually a really big thing back in the day. And he also finished second in the points 5 times. The most memorable of those times was 1990 when he finished second to Dale Earnhardt in points, and he probably would have won it if it hadn't been for a 45-point infraction for a spacer that he had attached between his carburetor and the air intake. If it had been welded on, it wouldn't have been an infraction, but because it was bolted on, it was an infraction. And back in the day, they said, well, it really didn't give him an advantage, but letter of the law, by the rule, he was cheating. So he lost 45 points, and the championship that he lost that year when he finished in second, he lost by less than 45 points. So he was agonizingly close to being a champion, and to this day, some really big Mark Martin fans contend that he was the real champion that year and that NASCAR politics took that one away from him. But he definitely has the resume to be called the greatest champion to never win a championship. And I think he's actually a statistical anomaly in the fact that he was so good for so long and actually never won a championship. That actually makes him an outlier in sort of a bad way. You always hear of outliers in a good way, people that achieve and do things. He's an outlier that achieved and never got to the very top points-wise in NASCAR. So that makes him a statistical outlier. But he definitely has the resume of wins to be the People's Champ. The third element you need to be the People's Champ is, yeah, you got to have wins. Yeah, you got to be iconic. But you also have to be relatable. Since Mark Martin has retired, like I said, you still see his t-shirts at the racetracks when you go, when you're allowed to go. You still see him on Twitter. He engages with people on Twitter. He talks to people on Twitter all the time. And sometimes if you cross him on Twitter, you'll wish he hadn't talked to you because he can really get after it on Twitter. He's still fiery for an older guy. He's on Instagram all the time talking about his RV builds. That's one of his more passionate things about. And a lot of people that travel around watching races can relate to RV builds. And the biggest, though, and the most important is the podcast. He does a really great podcast that you can find on Apple iTunes, Spotify, pretty much wherever you get your podcasts at. The Mark Martin podcast is really good, and if you haven't checked it out, you should definitely check it out. But all these things, the guy has been out of racing, like I said, for 10 years, and people are still tuning in to listen to him. That makes him iconic, and that makes him the People's Champ. Okay, so that's all I got for you today on this Thursday Throwback. Let me know down in the comments if you want to see more of these Thursday Throwbacks. This was actually mentioned in the comments to do a throwback on Mark Martin, so that's where this idea came from. So if you want to see more, let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed the content, please subscribe. It helps me out a lot, and I really, really appreciate it. And other than that, thanks for your time. Peace.